Hi, I'm Phil Dolman, and over the next 6 videos I'm going to give you an introduction to the baritone ukulele. Hopefully by the end of these 6 videos you'll have enough information to be able to move on to other instructional material on YouTube, some of which I've produced. You'll be able to play some simple songs, and you'll be able to go along to your local ukulele club if that's what you want to do, and be able to play along with the other ukuleles there on your baritone ukulele. More and more these days I'm seeing people come to festivals and to clubs that I'm visiting to give workshops, and all sorts of places I'm seeing baritone ukuleles turn up, whereas when I started playing it was quite unusual to see a baritone uke. And that's great because in a group setting the baritone uke really does give a much bigger sound to that group of players. They're not all playing in the same tuning, the range is wider and it gives a much bigger, fuller sound. It's also a great instrument for accompanying singing, just as all other ukuleles are, but if you're singing in particular keys, you might find that those keys are easier to play on the baritone uke than you might find them on the soprano ukulele. Of course, both instruments can play in all keys, but some keys are easier to play than others, and if the keys that are easy on the baritone ukulele suit your voice, then that might be an ideal match for you. In this first video, I'm going to show you 3 simple chords. We're going to look at how we can strum the strings to make a nice rhythm, and we're going to end up by just jamming along with a simple song called £9 Hammer. When I show chords, they're going to be diagrams like this one on the screen now, and they are showing you your ukulele as if you are holding it in front of you and looking at the fretboard of the instrument. The horizontal lines are the nut, which is this bit here where the strings pass over towards the tuners. That's at the top of your diagram, and then every other one is a fret, these metal fret wires here. The vertical lines on your diagram are your 4 strings. If you see a dot on one of those strings, then that's where you place a finger, and if at the top, and this isn't always shown on all diagrams, but if there's a little open circle at the top, that's telling you to play that string with no fingers on it. Now sometimes you won't see those little open shapes, sometimes you will just see the dots on the fingerboard, and that's fine. If we don't want you to play one of those strings, then a little cross will be put there instead. Sometimes it's just assumed that if you don't see a cross, you strum all the strings. In these 6 videos, there won't be any times where you don't play all 4 strings. Now before we start, we better get in tune. The baritone ukulele is tuned D, G, B, E from low to high. Now it commonly has a low 4th string, and that means the strings are in pitch order. So the one nearest the ceiling, the one nearest your nose, that's the lowest note. The next one is a bit higher, the next one higher, and the one nearest the floor, the highest. Sometimes people will have an octave higher string in place of their very low string, and then they will get this sound. Now most baritone players seem to choose this low 4th string. I have one baritone with one tuning and one with the other, but we're going to stick with the most common one. However, if you have got a high D on your baritone, all of what we're going to do will work for you as well. You'll just sound a little bit different. Now let's get in tune. If you've got a little clip-on tuner, you can use that, and it's a great thing to have, but you can also try and match up your strings with mine. Here's my D string. Here's my G string. Here's my B string. And here's my E string. And if you're not quite in tune, and it might take a while when you're first starting out, feel free to go back and watch that bit a few times and try and match up until you've got the same 4 notes as me. Okay, now we're in tune. Let's start with our first chord. Now, first chord is going to be the chord of G. And to play the chord of G, what we do is we look at the diagram that's on the screen. We can hold our uke up next to it like that and compare the two. And I'm going to be putting my finger, and I'm going to use my ring finger, and there's a reason for that which will become apparent in a moment. Put my ring finger in the 3rd fret space. So we don't want to put the fingers on top of the frets, because then we'll get horrible rattles and buzzers. We want them as near to the fret as we can get going this way, but just before them. So I'm going to put my ring finger in the 1st, 2nd, 3rd space. You may have a dot on your fingerboard. I've got one there on my 3rd fret. Some ukes have one on the 3rd fret, some don't. But it's pretty easy to count up to the 3rd fret anyway. But there you go. I'm holding down my E string, the one closest to the floor, not too hard, just enough to push the string down onto the fret. Now let's have a think about our hand position. My wrist doesn't want to be bent one way or the other too much. If you've got your wrist bent like this, you're going to make yourself very uncomfortable. So I've got my thumb sort of 3/4 of the way round the back of the neck, so you can see it poking over the top, but I'm not letting the neck drop into this little bit of my hand here, the crook of my thumb. I don't want to do that, because whilst you can get away with it with some of these early chords, there are some chords where that's going to be a bit of a problem. But just let that come out of the crook of your thumb. Rest your thumb about 3/4 of the way round, and you can also rest the neck of the uke on the side of your index finger there, near that big knuckle. Now, you won't be able to do that all the time, but when you're playing these chords that we're going to learn over, well, most of the chords over these 6 lessons, you'll be in a good position there because you'll have control over your instrument. I've got this part of the uke resting on my right leg. I've got my arm over the top resting on the body, and I'm going to be strumming somewhere around where the neck and the body join, just where my hand falls. So just take your thumb and just drag it across the strings. That's the chord of G. Really, that's the chord of G major, but it's one of those music theory assumption things. If you just see a letter for a chord like G, then really what they mean is G major. Let's just try a simple rhythm holding that chord down, and with my right hand, I'm going to use my thumb, but we'll also experiment with the index finger in a moment. I'm just going to strum down like this. See if you can keep time with me. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm counting to 4 because a lot of the music you will play is in what we call 4/4 time, which means 4 beats make up what we call a bar. When we get to the end of that bar, we start counting to 4 again. 1, 2, 3, 4. Try that now again with your index finger. It should be the same hand movement, it's just which bit of your hand is making contact with the string. So if you do it with your index finger, curl it round, don't try and stick it out, curl it round, let it go very floppy and your wrist go floppy. And try the same thing. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's introduce another chord. Now we're going to have the chord of C. Again, I'm going to look at my fingerboard facing me with my uke upright, compare it to that diagram, and for that one I'm going to put my first finger on the B string, that's the 2nd string up, and when we count our strings and we number them, we start at the floor like the rungs of a ladder. So the first string is the one nearest the floor, the 2nd string is the B string, that's the next one up, and I'm going to hold my index finger down there in the 1st fret space, just behind the 1st fret on that string, and my 2nd finger is going to reach right across to the D string, the 4th string at the 2nd fret, and it should sound like this. And that's a C chord. Let's do the same thing as we did before, a nice simple rhythm. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now this is why we played our G chord with our ring finger. It means that I can get these two fingers, and rather than sticking them out, I want them to just hover over the strings, so that when I come to move from my G to my C, I can put my first two fingers down and I can lift my ring finger off. And when I go back to my G chord, I can put my ring finger down and lift these two off, rather than trying to move one finger back and forth and have to do this with my hand. So let's try 4 strums on our G chord and 4 strums on our C chord, and back and forth like that. 1, 2, 3, 4. G chord, C chord, G chord, C chord, G chord, C chord, and G chord. Now that's going to take a while to get comfortable from moving to one to the other. Try not to hold the neck too tight. Try and be nice and relaxed. Don't press down too hard on those strings, and take your time with it. And if you have to slow down to do it as slow as you need to do to get those chord changes in. For this video, we're only going to do one more chord, and this is the chord of D7. Now for a D7, our index finger goes back in that same place that we had for our C chord, the first fret of our second string, our B string. This is a 3-finger chord, so the middle 2 fingers, the next 2 fingers, are both going to be in the 2nd fret space. My second finger is going to be on the G string at the 2nd fret, that's the 3rd string, and my ring finger is also going to squeeze in the 2nd fret, but on the E string. So now I should have this shape, and again I'm going to look at the front of my uke like that to make sure it matches up. It should sound like this. D7. Now those 3 chords are really important in something we call the key of G. And a key is just a family of chords and notes that fit together, sound nice together, and make music together. And if we have G and C and D7, we can play an awful lot of songs. Now you might not be able to get this straight away, and as with all of these videos, we're going to cover a lot in each video. You're probably going to want to watch them several times, and you're probably going to want to have a little break before you look at the next video and get comfortable with the first one. But we're going to build up to playing a simple song. The song goes like this. G, C, D7, back to G. And I play 2 bars on each chord. So that's a count of 4, 2 times on each chord. And it just goes round and round and round like that. So let's try that one more time. 1, 2, 3, 4. 2 bars. 1, 2, 3, 4. C. 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. D7, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. G, 2, 3, 4, 1. And as we're still on G, when we start again, we stay on G. We had 2 bars of G at the end and 2 bars of G at the beginning. Now our C, now our D7, back to G. And we can play lots of songs with those chords, but in that particular timing we can sing this song. This 9-pound hammer is a little too heavy, baby, for my size, baby, for my size. I'm going on the mountain, gonna see my baby. I ain't coming back, I ain't coming back. Now the song has lots more verses, And if you follow the link down below, you'll be able to download a chart for that song. And really, it just goes around that same pattern over and over again, and you can just keep playing the same thing while you sing all the different verses and choruses over the top of that. So you've got plenty to practice there. In the next lesson, we'll look at some more chords and some more songs that you can play with those chords. But for the meantime, keep practicing, and I'll see you in part 2. Bye.